explain. But what I have compiled here is some sort of series of photographs that will on the one hand display the calamity, the devastation that has taken place, and try probably to explain some of the causes or underlying facts that has increased the veracity of the whole calamity. This is how I would like to proceed. What happened really? I mean, this is, I have almost compiled all the calamity figures for the response of the administration through media reports, but I verified some. And only for some of the facts, some of the natural processes that were operating, that I consulted some of the literature which are not really media published. So I will first show you what has happened and then go to the disaster managers, how they respond to disaster, and some of the underlying processes. I probably include in most of my lecture what are the possible causes and how we can minimize. So future preparedness is just only one topic. Now on June 16, ISRO satellites recorded a unusual buildup of clouds over Uttarakhand, and they immediately marked 11 places as red with a forecast of heavy rainfall. It's not very clear from the media reports whether it was immediately transmitted to IMD, Meteorological Department, so that who are another independently working nodal agency for the forecast. But they did process the image and marked it as rain warning for Uttarakhand. But apparently, the ground administrators didn't pay heed to this, or nor were they informed about this. And within a few hours, the rain started. And eventually, Tapan flood control lab in England, they monitor all the major flood events all over the globe through satellite images. They say about 1.13 lakh square kilometer has been affected. About 20 lakh people were affected, and the official figures stand out as 5,000 dead and another 4,847 still missing, which means about 10,000 people died. And 650 to 700 villages were completely wiped out. Probably more than 2,000 kilometers of the roads were destroyed. About 100 bridges were swept away. And I don't know exactly, the media figures are very different. What is the actual loss? But one media report says that only the tourism industry has predicted that at this time and over some time to come, the total cumulative loss to the tourism industry will be 12,000 crore rupees. And one of the worst affected were the hydropower plants that was being constructed. There are 70 in the region that has been sanctioned, of which 43 is in Uttarakhand. Those are the areas which has been affected by the cloudburst and heavy rainfall. And about 20 of them has been damaged, these under construction hydro projects. And they estimate about 70 to 100 crores of rupees has been lost in this flood, as the half constructed, partly constructed hydro projects were washed away. Now, I will show you a small video. It is also not available. Sorry, so I cannot show you this. Whether this video is not available. And these are some of the photographs. This you must have seen. The images, the video images that are not available, just only shows some of the comparatively rare video images that are available in the net, that shows how the rivers worked, what happened to the roads, how the bridges collapsed, and how the buildings constructed by the side of the river collapsed one after another. Now, this is the image of the Kedarnath temple, the famous Kedarnath temple, just after the deluge. It is strewn with dead bodies. And this is some of the roads, how the roads collapsed, and mud flows that occupied most of the roads and covered up the vehicles. Some of the boulders that was carried by the river during the flood was about 10 meters wide. And whatever came in front of them, whether they're building or human beings or whatever, was destroyed instantaneously. Now, how the disaster managers work and responded to this. Now, this is a visual published in India today. Now, that is the whole array of disaster management system which has been initiated by the central government in collaboration with the state to actually tackle the disasters of this kind. There has been a report which says that that was by expert committee formed by the government in 2005, which says that 56.5% areas of our country is disaster prone, either coastal areas exposed to the risk of tsunami or similar other natural disasters, or hilly tracts where many of the natural disasters can happen. Now, top of this is the central machinery, which constitutes of National Executive Committee, which is under Home Ministry, and it never met after this or before this disaster, Uttarakhand flood. Then there is National Crisis Management Committee that is headed by a cabinet secretary level person, who is supposed to be a nodal agency collaborating with different state and central agencies to recover people from the onslaught of the disaster. They first made 7 days after the disaster took place. And there is a National Disaster Management Authority which has formed in 2005, and in 2013, after 8 years, 5 major disasters. CAG comment lasting in 2011 was that NDMA has failed in almost all the major areas in which it is supposed to work. It has a budget of 850 crores, and there was a public interest litigation against this NDMA that it has done nothing for Uttarakhand flood, and the chief of National Disaster Management Authority is a political person, a MP from Andhra Pradesh. He said, well, then people will know what are the limitations of it. That's how the whole machinery started reacting to the disaster. Now, if you look at the state level, SDMA, the State Disaster Management Authority, has not met once since 2008. And State Disaster Response Force, there is none in Uttarakhand. They did nothing. And Uttarakhand is one of the 14 states who has submitted some disaster management plan, for which central government has allocated 525 crore rupees but nothing has been done so far. Now, communication disaster, I mean, all the mobile towers collapsed in the disaster area. So most of the even well-known towns, smaller towns, were completely without any communication for a few days. And government just hurried to purchase 200 satellite phones after 31st June. It started on 14th June and from Hong Kong and dispatched it to the army. That's how people react to the disaster when hundreds and thousands of crore rupees has been allocated for them. And incidentally, after 2004 tsunami in Andaman Nicobar, there was a plan, according to a committee that was formed to see how this kind of disaster can be avoided. There is a plan to install 147 sirens so that there is a global network of tsunami warning, which probably can warn you about 30 hours before the actual tsunami strikes a particular place. So they suggested that 147 tsunami sirens should be installed. None of them have been installed. So this is just a side story. In June 2008, 2 Doppler radars were purchased, and these radars are, I mean, those who are working with them can say better, but what I understand is that they are capable of reading the unusual accumulation and buildup of rain clouds and can make forecasts even 8 hours before the actual heavy rainfall strikes. They have been purchased in 2008, but the Uttarakhand government was unable to provide a land in Nainital and Mussoorie so that they can be installed. So for 5 years they are running and they are staying there. A synthetic aperture radar, 20 crore, was purchased and has never been used. There is some problem somewhere. Now, what has happened in Uttarakhand? One interesting story is that the traffic in this area has jumped by 1,000% over the last 7 years. 4300 projects has been sanctioned in Uttarakhand proper, 20 of them severely damaged. And in 2011, a team of Roorkee IIT visited all these. I mean, they were trying to assess the environmental impact of these hydel projects, and they found that most of these hydel projects are deep inside the areas which is very difficult terrain, susceptible to landsliding, and they are stripping off everything in order to make constructions. Every year, about 2.8 crore tourists visit Uttarakhand, mostly religious tourism, and the total population of Uttarakhand is 1.1 crore. So you can guess the pressure of the tourism and the industry that is building up around these tourists. And I have not written the exact amount. The forest department reports that there are quite a significant loss of 3,903 hectares of forest land is being stripped. And there is an academic project that the paper has not published yet, which projects based on the tracking of the forest land through satellite images over different years, and they project that in 2000 the forest cover was 85% and it will go down to 53% if this trend continues in 2100. Now this is the terrain in which we had this tremendous flood. This is the catchment boundary over which the rainfall was drained to various streams, and there was a catastrophic result of this incessant rain. Now let us have a look at this terrain. This is Kedarnath, and this is Gangotri. And you see, this is just from the Google map. This is the Kedarnath village. The temple is somewhere here, and this is the agglomeration of buildings, hotels that has cropped up in this area. And this is the terrain, which is extremely susceptible to landsliding and all kinds of natural furious activities, but nobody bothers. And if you notice that the Kedarnath temple is situated, this is the temple, it is situated right within the channel, which is coming out from the hill, widening here, and it again closes down a little bit. And a temple was built here, long back, which has survived the onslaught of the huge boulders that hit it. But most of the buildings that were constructed were destroyed or heavily damaged. Now, this is the Kedarnath temple in 1861. The glaciers were far closer. There was hardly any population. It was a little bit elevated region at that time. But things have changed quite a lot gradually. And this is the Kedarnath village now, which has so many buildings, and you can see how they are positioned with respect to the hill. So they are most susceptible to any kind of natural disaster. Now, this is Hempur Lake in 1966. And this is what Hempur Lake is 40 years after. So that's how we keep on building in terrains which are glacially affected by floods and various kinds of natural disasters. Now, this is the satellite image by ISRO, which shows that before the flood, this was the Kedarnath village around the temple, and it has become like this. It was ravaged by water and flooded streams. It was completely covered by the flooded streams which came from the upstream. Probably a glacial lake outburst there under the pressure of water, which is a natural phenomenon which takes place all the time, all over the globe, and probably it recurs time and again in history. I will come to that later. So, it was built exactly on the channel, inside a deep gorge, and it was destroyed when there was a rainfall. The most notorious thing that has appeared in the media is that the allegation that the whole episode was provoked by incessant rainfall, which measures up to 300 millimeters of rainfall in 3-4 days, which has caused a tremendous flood, and that is beyond the destruction of the Uttarakhand flood. But if you look at this is Indian Meteorological Division data. It shows data from 1901 to 2000. They have not released the data after 2000. It's probably available with them. And in the net they have data for two areas, Dehradun, capital of Uttarakhand, and Yoshimon, somewhere about 40 kilometers away from Kedarnath. You can see in Dehradun, in the year 1965-66, rainfall was 950 millimeters in a single month. And if you look at the pattern of rainfall, either in Yoshimon or in Dehradun, or in Calcutta, or in any other place, because IMD says the monsoonal rainfall in 2013 is just normal. There has been no excess, nowhere in India. It is just normal. That means this pattern of rainfall increasing and decreasing is taking place in nature. nature automatically. We exactly do not know the reason for this cyclicity, but it vary to extend to a heightened rainfall and then decrease. The only thing that is being told by experts is that the average global temperature or probably post-industrial revolution has probably risen to about 1 degree, less than 1 degree, something between 0.5 and 2. That has not caused any increase in rainfall, but there are more reports of intense rainfall in a particular place, which might be in some way or other related to the global warming. But there is no tangible correlation between global warming and the rainfall for 100 years. It shows the same pattern, is usual all over the globe. It goes up and down in a sort of sinusoidal pattern. You may do a lot of statistics, probably that reveal finer details. Now, these are the images that was captured by National Remote Sensing Agency. And you can see that between May 28 and June 21st, starting on June 16, there is a tremendous increase in snowfall. That means there is a tremendous increase in the moisture which in the highland areas accumulated snow. This is an indication that there will be heavy to very heavy showers coming down because monsoon cloud with a lot of moisture is accumulated in that area. And if there is a rainfall, the rain temperature is much less, the water temperature brought down by the rain is much less than the ice, so ice will melt. And it will increase several times the water that is going to pass through the entire basin. Nobody cared for it. And if you look at the rainfall data, this has been published in some of the papers. This was published in 2012. If you look at the rainfall and departure from long period average, then there is plus 70 to minus 90. So 100% fluctuation is normal in that area. And over the last 20 years, the rainfall in Uttarakhand varies from 1,500 millimeter to 3,000 millimeter. That's very normal. Nobody's bothered about that. In 2007, there was huge rainfall and about 2,000 people died. But the government doesn't care for this. Now, there are three things that people say that has taken place in this area. One is mud flow. If you look at some of the images, you can see the whole car was covered by a muddy sediment. And there is debris flow and glacial lake outburst flood. Mud flow and debris flow are a little bit different from the river flow in the sense in river flow, if the velocity increases, it tries to carry more and more sediment. If loose sediments are available, then it carries larger and larger particles. So if there is a flood, if there is a flash flood, then large huge boulders, if available within the terrain in which it is passing through, will be taken up. But the amount of sediment or the larger size of the boulders it can carry will depend on the intensity of the flow, shear stress it exerts on that particular particle. In case of mud flow or other debris flow, things are different. They move en masse as a slide, something like a moving liquid tub, which is a mixture of water, soil, and large particles. If the finest soil particle and water mixture starts moving, that is mud flow, and if there are boulders moving within, then it's debris flow. That is the technical term we call debris flow. Difference is in the viscosity. One is a material driven by the fluid, and other is a material which has a high viscosity, moves under the flow force of gravity. So in a rocky terrain, if you have a steep slope and if it is covered with a lot of soil and loose boulders, And if rainfall or snow melt comes, it soaks the whole material and reduces the internal frictions requirement, and the whole mass starts sliding. It forms the avalanche, and it carries a lot of huge boulders and crush any obstruction coming, because it's a high viscosity and there's a high sediment load in it. And mud flows are made up of soil material soaked in water, but that also moves in mass, and it can move very fast, about 80 kilometers per hour. Now, this is from Darjeeling, Himalaya. This is just one evidence of how debris flow moves. There is a huge wall carried in, within a river in the Darjeeling Himalaya foothills, close to Shri. And you can see the large boulders that are being carried by this flow and set in fine grained matrix. So that is, this may be 100 or 200 years old, maybe 1,000 years old. We don't know exactly the age, but it looks like hundreds of years old. So it's a common phenomenon all over the hilly terrains. There was nothing very unusual in Uttarakhand. The things happen very normally as the nature to respond to any fluctuation in its processes. But the problem is that you have allowed construction of a school. This was a paper in 2011 that came out with current science. You have allowed a construction of a school on a loose debris. Debris flow has come down a block, and is now formed a stable ground. You have allowed a school to be constructed. There are small channels which regularly bring out the debris during the monsoon time, and you have allowed a sprawling, almost village to come up with so many constructions. If there is slight increase in rainfall, the whole thing will go. And about the catastrophic flash flood that has apparently happened, or maybe glacial blocked lakes that has given way due to rainfall. This is in Nepal, because it happened in 1985. This is the hillock where so many people live. There were a road and everything is now quite a river once there is a flood. The same thing has happened here. This was the main road constructed, and it has been bridged here. A small channel has widened this area. This was a stupa somewhere in a terrace, and stupa has gone here. The river has expanded. These are all after a glacial lake outburst in the upstream area. It is very common in any of the mountainous terrains, and so is in Uttarakhand. Now, the blue dots are some of the major glacial lakes that we can see using satellite imagery, and many of them were created by glacial moraines. These are artificial dams. As the glacier melt, they leave a huge load of sediment. They dam some of the small rivers. The water pile up on the upstream of that particular dam. And if there is any disturbance, either heavy rainfall, accumulation of huge water, or a seismic shock, the wall can collapse and huge volume of water will come. So one of the potential dangers you can see north of Siliguri, Darjeeling, is in Sikkim, is in Uttarakhand, is in Himachal Pradesh, is in Jammu Kashmir. They are dotted with glacial lakes. It is common all over Himalaya, and you don't know, there is no way of monitoring it and seeing whether they can. I mean, there are now artificial engineering ways to release the dams water gradually so that there is no catastrophic